Hey guys, Alpha Fantasy Sports, Matthew Maurer, Fantasy Fire. Today we're going to go over our mock draft as well as look at the news and notes that are out there in the world and see if any of this is going to affect us in the NFL upcoming season. Talk to you guys soon.
Alpha Fantasy Sports presents Fantasy Fire.
All right, so we're back. It just dawned on me that I haven't done a mock draft and really gone over the picks and looked at the values. And that's something that I always find useful whenever I hear other fantasy analysts go through their mindsets of what's going on in the mock. We're going to take a look at a 12-team mock I did, standard league format. And I got some help from some of the guys in my league as well as some of the fans that wanted to participate in the mock. Without further ado, let's go through the first round. Jamal Charles went first, Eddie Lacy second, Marshawn Lynch third, Le'Veon Bell fourth. Now, Bell, I don't know if he went fourth because of the idea that the 2-game suspension is going to take away some of his production. I don't know if I would take Marshawn Lynch third overall. I like Bell over him, as well as Forte, Adrian Peterson, C.J. Anderson. To me, Marshawn Lynch is on a decline somewhat. I think he hasn't done anything this year per se that's been terrible or even bad, but it's certainly something that gives me a little pause of concern when I look at some of what the trend is for running backs at his age. Definitely is a guy that could have a down season. He ran exceptionally well last year. I mean, maybe he's like Frank Gore, where he'll tap into the youth and will forever be a player. I don't know, but it was something that did catch my mind. Going third overall, I couldn't do that in a regular league. Bell, I think if you can get Le'Veon Bell in the first 3 picks, you should do that. Despite the 2 games, he was very productive last season. I think this season will be no different. Jamal Charles, number 1. The durability concerns really have me at a concern for him. I don't know if I could take him number 1 overall. I think maybe I'd go with Eddie Lacy, then Le'Veon Bell. But for right now, there's some questionable picks, but it's not too bad. Matt Forte went 5th, Adrian Peterson 6th, Odell Beckham 7th. The Odell Beckham train is one that I've just never understood. Don't get me wrong, Odell Beckham was amazing last year. You can't take anything away from what he did last year. He was truly amazing. Maybe another year he'll produce even better results. I don't know what people are really gauging the thought process regarding taking him in the first round. I can't pull the trigger on Odell Beckham in the first round. I just can't. To me, it doesn't make very logical sense. In my mock, he was the first wide receiver gone. I just don't understand that. I'd rather have Demaryius Thomas or Antonio Brown. But Odell Beckham is getting that kind of hype. There are people out there that are ready to take him in the top 10 of drafts. And if you're one of those guys, you really need to do your homework and you really need to make sure that you're going to be comfortable with that, because taking an Odell Beckham that early, he went 7th in my draft, is just absurd. I just can't do it. Second round, surely. First round, there's too much value still left out on the board. I can't do it. C.J. Anderson went 8th, which I think is ridiculously low. I think C.J. Anderson is going to be a top 6 running back this year, which is just amazing when you consider where he was last year. Hats off to C.J. He really ran well last year. Almost made the Denver Broncos offense forget about Peyton Manning, as Manning kind of got banged up a little bit towards the end of the year. C.J. came in and really provided Denver some very good play. Taking him 8th overall is just spectacular. Demaryius Thomas, Antonio Brown, 9 and 10. No problems there. Rob Gronkowski, first tight end off the board in the first round. Makes about perfect sense to me. Andrew Luck went 12th, which is the funny thing about Andrew Luck is I know that a lot of guys are going to be playing in leagues where Andrew Luck will be a top 5 pick. I'm pretty sure Luck will be. And for some reason in my mock, he fell to the late half of the first round. And I don't think you're going to get that in most leagues. I think most leagues you're going to have guys taking Luck with the top 5 pick. I really do. There's a lot of hype on Luck. There's a lot of hope that he produces a record-breaking year. And for the guys who are talking about Andrew Luck in the first round, let me provide you guys with some context here with why I think Luck in the top 5 doesn't make a lot of sense. There's been one quarterback over the past 5 years that has just obliterated competition to the point where his second place guy was really like a fourth place guy. And that was Peyton Manning when he had his record year. Luck surely could produce some similar numbers. Absolutely. I have no doubt about that. But the idea that Andrew Luck has that sort of value is a little hard for me because and Peyton Manning was spectacular the year that he just went ape. He was just exceptional. I mean, who can argue what Peyton Manning did? 5,477 yards, 55 touchdowns. Yeah, Luck could provide that. And last year, Luck was exceptionally well, but I just want to give you some context about how hard it is to produce the kind of quarterback numbers that people are starting to give Luck the opportunity to provide this year. Last year, Luck was exceptional. 4,000 yards, 761, 40 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Those are exceptional QB tier 1 numbers. No argument from me. But put him in context with Manning in his exceptional year. You're talking about Peyton Manning threw 15 more touchdowns. You're talking that Peyton Manning threw 6 less interceptions. And you're almost talking about 800 yards more that Peyton Manning threw. That's just amazingly crazy to me. Surely I think Luck can get numbers that are going to be exceptional. But 55 touchdowns? 55 touchdowns? I mean, look, if you can take Luck in the first round, I'm not saying you don't. But to do that in the top 5 is just insane to me. For any quarterback to be taken in the top 5. And the reason why I say this is because quarterbacks are the type of guys, they produce a lot of points and they fool fantasy owners into the value of them. Yes, take nothing away. Top tier quarterback is exceptional value for your fantasy football team. But literally, the difference between the number 1 guy and the number 10 guy in the quarterback group is literally 100 points. Now, you may be saying, well, yeah, Matt, that's the point. Well, here's the point. When Peyton Manning had his record-breaking year, the number 2 quarterback was literally 100 points behind him. Peyton Manning that year was ridiculous, and that's kind of where we're at right now with Andrew Luck. He's getting Peyton Manning hype, and people don't realize the kind of numbers that Peyton Manning put out in his record-setting year. I just think that you need to secure running backs because running backs are such a valued position right now. Well, let me reverse that. They're a devalued position in real football. They're a valued position in fantasy football because of the lack of production that guys get and the amount of carries that guys are not getting anymore now. So to me, I think that's where it's at. I think if you take an Andrew Luck, I would do in the second half of the first round. I would not take him in the first half. To get a Matt Forte, to Adrian Peterson, a Le'Veon Bell, a Eddie Lacy, even a Jamal Charles, to me, that has way more value than taking an Andrew Luck because you know Aaron Rodgers is not going to be that far behind Andrew Luck. You know that Peyton Manning is not going to be that far back from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's the reality of the situation, and people really have to get the understanding of what we're talking about here with fantasy football. Taking Andrew Luck in the first round certainly makes sense. Taking him too early makes none. So let's move on to the second round. Dez Bryant, Jeremy Hill, Julio Jones, DeMarco Murray, LaShawn McCoy, Justin Forsett, Jordy Nelson, Calvin Johnson, Arian Foster, AJ Green, Aaron Rodgers, Melvin Gordon, first rookie off the board, and then Alshon Jeffrey. Here's the interesting thing about this. LaShawn McCoy is a guy that's going in second rounds in some mocks that I played in. This is a guy that has an incredible chance to really put up some exceptional numbers in Buffalo. He's practically going to be the whole offense. The only thing that gives me a little bit of trepidation with LaShawn McCoy is you wonder, was the year in Philly last year, was this about him? Was it about Chip Kelly's offensive system? What was the reason for the decline in LaShawn McCoy's numbers? And I'm going to chalk it up to just the system. I don't think LaShawn McCoy really liked how Chip Kelly was running his offense, and I think he was just uncomfortable. I really think LaShawn McCoy has a real chance to put up some tremendous numbers. Back to the 1600 year that he had 2 years ago? No. But will he have numbers that will rival 2013? Yeah, I think you're going to see that kind of a LaShawn McCoy. And listen, last year wasn't a horrifically bad year. Many people took LaShawn McCoy in the top 3 picks, and that's where the value hurt them. And in fantasy football, it's about value. It's about where are you getting guys and what parts of the draft. And LaShawn McCoy, if you took him last year in the top 3, you were hurt. There's no way to talk around it. You were hurt, and it hurt your team. Jordy Nelson is a guy that slips. Calvin Johnson, again, what can you say? You know he's going to have some injury concerns, but pretty much when when healthy, he's going to be one of the top wide receivers in the game. Julio Jones went a little earlier than I would have taken him in the mock. He went 15th overall. I don't know if I would take him that early. I certainly like Calvin Johnson over him. I certainly like Jordy Nelson over him. I do think Julio has potential to be an exceptional wideout. I don't know how much I would bank that on an early second round pick. I might target a Julio Jones in the later half of the second round. Arian Foster, with his injuries of the hamstring, I got to be honest with you, even second round for me is way too early for Arian. Well, I wouldn't say way too early, but it's too early for me. I would be more comfortable taking Arian Foster in the third round, mid to late third round, because right now Arian Foster is at a crossroads. He's at that age where running backs start to break down a little bit, and usually running backs with his carries that he's acquired through the course of 4 to 5 years, it starts taking a toll on the player. And he's got the hamstring issue. You knew drafting Arian Foster, you were going to have to grab his handcuff, Alfred Blue, who was going really high in mocks. I think now you're going to see Alfred Blue get possibly a top 5 round selection. I think some people are going to target Alfred Blue before they target Arian Foster even. I think some GMs will probably feel that Arian Foster's days are numbered. I'm far more optimistic about his potential this year, but I have heard some people say that Arian Foster is going to decline severely this year, and that the hamstring was just the icing on the cake on his progression down. So I don't believe that. I believe Arian Foster still has about 2 more years of real fantasy production. And after that, we're going to start looking at a degrade in him. Aaron Rodgers will never go that late like he did in my mock. Clearly, the guys that I did this mock with value certain positions more leaning towards, I guess you could call it, more of an orthodox way of drafting. Aaron Rodgers went pretty late in the second round. I know that he's probably going to be a first round target for many GMs. So I don't expect to have him down that low when it comes time to really drafting. Melvin Gordon, first rookie off the board. You can't argue he has all the chances in the world to be productive this year. It's just really going to be on him to see how far he goes. Everybody else, they kind of hit where I thought they would hit. In the third round, we have T.Y. Hilton, Mike Evans, Peyton Manning, Emmanuel Sanders, Jordan Matthews, Randall Cobb, Carlos Hyde, Jimmy Graham, Frank Gore, Latavius Murray, Kelvin Benjamin, and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's a guy that I can't get excited about. As a fantasy option, I like what he's done in his career. As a guy that would I want to lean on him for points year in and year out? And I know a lot of people are going to think Russell Wilson gives them the opportunities to make more touchdowns because of Jimmy Graham. I'm down on Jimmy Graham this year too. It's no secret. I've put it out on my website. I've put it out in the video. I'm just very concerned about Jimmy Graham. His numbers in the past weren't just about touchdowns with Jimmy Graham. They really weren't. Jimmy Graham, I get it. He's a red line tight end, but if you look at Jimmy Graham's numbers with Drew Brees, you're talking about almost 1,000-yard receiver. He's not going to get that opportunity. He's just not. It's those yards I just think are going to have to go down. Maybe 700, maybe 600 yards. People forget Russell Wilson is the quarterback that wide receivers go to die. If you have a wide receiver and he plays with Russell Wilson, you're not going to get great value from those wideouts. I mean, I don't know anybody who drafts wideouts from the Seattle Seahawks, and they've had some decent ones. It's just not going to happen. Jordan Matthews is a grab. I see where everybody thinks that he'll go. I just can't take. I'm just really concerned with Jordan Matthews and that offense. We don't know where that offense is going to go. Sam Bradford, no matter what anybody says, he has durability issues. I know the Eagles are going to speak highly about him and act like he's the $6 million man, that he's bionic. But trust me, Sam Bradford is going to be pampered more than a baby will, more than a newborn baby. They're going to make sure that he doesn't even stub his toe in the middle of the night. Bradford is Mr. Glass, and it's by no disrespect by me saying that. This guy is injury prone. And with Sam Bradford goes down, Mark Sanchez, I know he did well in spots last year, but it's Mark Sanchez. All this conversation about Mark Sanchez, being resurrected under Chip Kelly. Yeah, we saw the real Mark Sanchez last year. And as I like to call Mark Sanchez, Dirty Sanchez, because eventually he will become dirty. Eventually he will become the glass slipper will slip off, and you'll see that, yeah, okay, he's maybe not the prince we thought he is. He looks like he's more of the pauper. And I know what Chip Kelly's hoping for, and I suspect Chip Kelly will run an offense that's predicated on the run, and then they will throw spots when the defense keys in on the run that will open up the passing lanes for his wideouts. Jordan Matthews has every chance this year to put up some killer numbers. At the end of the day, do I think he can do that? Yeah. Would I take him in the third round early? No, I'd probably start to target Jordan Matthews in the early fourth in a 10-team league, late third in a 12-team league. I can't do him in the first half of the third round in any format. Randall Cobb, I love that pick. Frank Gore, I understand the guy, he, despite his age, he has been productive. Take nothing away from him. But look, at some point, Frank Gore is going to fall apart. He's going to break down. Something's going to happen at some point. And you have to think that eventually it will happen. Whether it happens this year, I don't know. I don't think he's going to get the carries that many people project, but Frank Gore can really catch too. So I think he's in a very good spot for a guy his age that's on the decline of his career. So I guess I can't argue too much with that selection. Following that, we have DeAndre Hopkins in the fourth. He starts out the fourth round. Greg Olsen, Alfred Morris, Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, Lamar Miller, Julian Edelman, Deshaun Jackson, Joique Bell, LeGarrette Blount, Travis Kelce, and then Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is in a very good situation. The top target for Drew Brees is gone. Cooks really did well last year. Not exceptional by any stretch, but definitely a guy that Drew Brees targeted. I think Cooks probably goes higher in a PPR format than he does a standard. He still hasn't shown that he's the touchdown producer that people will need him to be, but Cooks, there's value there. If you can grab Cooks in the fourth round, I think that's great value. LeGarrette Blount, I don't know if I take him there yet in the fourth. Surely I would start to look at him in the late fourth, but the New England Patriots offense is just, especially at that running back. I mean, is it him? Is it Jonas Gray? I mean, who's it going to be? We just don't know. Alfred Morris, wow. This is a guy that was going in the first round of many drafts just a couple years ago. Talk about a decline. And I don't know if it's that simple to call him a guy that's declined, as much as I think it might be, here's a guy who, for whatever reason, has not been able to do well in short carries. Guys like Jamal Charles, they don't need heavy carries. Alfred Morris, to be productive, is a volume back. He needs carries. And that Redskins offense does not always provide that. And as well, Alfred Morris's best year when he was among the fantasy football top producers was when RG3 was healthy and they were running the spread option. When that happened, Alfred Morris was electric. When there's not the threat of the QB like RG3 running, it definitely allows the defense more of an opportunity to key on Alfred Morris. And Alfred Morris has never been a speedster. I mean, this is a guy that was a fullback in college who many people didn't think he could be a running back in the NFL. So hats off to him and what he's done. But if you're a fantasy owner, about the fourth round, late third is probably where you're going to start to target Alfred Morris. I wouldn't target him before then. Definitely a guy that will have some owners worried. Mark Ingram, Lamar Miller, can't argue with those guys. One of those guys is going to be exceptional this year. Which one is very hard to really put into words, because we don't know. Mark Ingram, you have on one hand, is a guy that he looks a little bit Alfred Morris like. He needs carries. On the other end, you have Lamar Miller, who's got that Jamal Charles electricity about him where he can catch. He doesn't need a ton of carries to produce, but he does have a rookie that's kind of looking over his shoulder. He does have an offensive line that's not the greatest. So they each have real negative cons to them. The pros are definitely there, but the cons are just woo. They're ones that you're going to have to really make that choice, because you're basically getting each one of those guys in both spots. You're getting him in about the fourth round. We see what Mark Ingram can do when he gets 20 plus carries. We have not seen him be able to produce when he gets small carries, because that's the measure of a great back, is when you can get 12 carries, get 100 yards, catch the ball. Mark Ingram, I don't know. He maybe. I don't know. Lamar Miller, he's proven that he can produce, but let's be honest, he's burnt a lot of owners in the past, and he's playing in a situation that's not the best. Rounding out the fifth round is Golden Tate, Amari Cooper, Joseph Randle, CJ Spiller, Jeremy Maclin, Sammy Watkins, TJ Yeldon, Tony Romo, Martavius Bryant, Jonathan Stewart, Andre Ellington, and Giovanni Bernard. Giovanni Bernard, wow, what a drop to get Gio in the fifth round in drafts is about where he's going. That's incredible, because just last year he was going in the second round to some people. I've seen some people take him in the first. Really a decline in production with Jeremy Hill coming in. It literally has almost put Giovanni Bernard on the sidelines. Who knows if that train will ever get right. I think at this point, if you can avoid Gio Bernard, I think that's what you do. He's clearly, to me, he's a desperation pick. He's the pick that you make when you hope maybe Jeremy Hill has a decline, or he's the pick you take when you just feel that Jeremy Hill's injury prone. I would not take Gio Bernard this year. I'd rather have another GM take that risk. Golden Tate, great pick in the fifth. Amari Cooper, no arguments from me. Joseph Randle is an interesting conversation, because really you're talking about a guy who has not been very productive. And part of that is because he hasn't had the chance. This year, he has the chance. I mean, behind that offensive line, Joseph Randle could be a very viable fantasy running back. But he does not have the history. And that's going to lead Joseph Randle to drop in many GM's eyes. When you start to peg him, I would probably start to target Joseph Randle, depending on my running back situation in the 4th or 5th round. Randle scares me because you don't know. You just don't. He's just such a question mark. And then you have also Darren McFadden, who might, because of the offensive line being as good as it's been, who might be a guy that is able to recover his career. And with that kind of offensive line, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he really becomes a real viable option in fantasy. How much, I don't know, because we know that Darren McFadden has always had durability concerns. But when he's healthy, he's been one of the best. Jonathan Stewart, yeah. Andre Ellington, yeah. These are guys that both of those guys could be top 10 running backs, or both of these guys could be one of the worst picks at running back. Jonathan Stewart, he has ability. Andre Ellington has ability. Consistency, well, that's where we have an issue. Stewart will finally be able to run without D'Angelo Williams breathing down his neck. And Andre Ellington seems to have really been given some measure of respect from Coach Arians, who says that he'll run him. So Ellington looks like a guy that's going to get the ball quite a bit. TJ Yeldon, I don't know. The Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't know if I want Yeldon that early. I'd probably target him in the 6th. Other than that, not a bad. CJ Spiller is the other issue with Mark Ingram, because CJ Spiller is going to be, I think CJ Spiller will be kind of like Reggie Bush was for the New Orleans Saints. He can catch the ball. He's exceptional in short carries. Definitely a guy that Mark Ingram is going to have to watch over, and definitely a guy that the New Orleans Saints are going to implement in their offense. I just don't know to what level, but he probably will start to get in a little bit of Ingram's carries. And then finally, in the 6th round, we have Martellus Bennett, Cam Newton, Andre Johnson, Jason Witten, Julius Thomas, Brandon Marshall, Jordan Cameron, Trey Mason, Seahawks defense, Keenan Allen, Isaiah Crowell, and Ben Roethlisberger. I stay within the top 6 because, statistically speaking, GMs who nail their first 6 picks and nail them by getting good, consistent, productive players usually make the playoffs, if history has shown us anything. You can see in this draft that the tight end position is starting to go a little haywire. GMs are panicking because with Jimmy Graham, Kelsey, and Gronk gone, you start to see Martellus Bennett, Witten, Julius Thomas, Jordan Cameron. You start to see those guys come off the board. Zach Ertz probably will start to get targeted in the 5th or 6th round in most leagues. Keenan Allen is exceptional value that late in the draft because this is a guy who could turn around and have a very good season. Last year was not a great season, but Keenan Allen has shown in the past that he can be productive. So if you can grab a Keenan Allen in the late 6th, I think that's. I would rather have him as a wide receiver 3, though. I would not want him as a wide receiver 1 or 2, just because of what happened last year. But definitely is a guy that you could pick and really get some production. Trey Mason, I don't want any parts of the St. Louis Rams running back situation. Between him, between Cunningham, between Gurley, that situation is crowded, and to me, it looks like a split carry situation. I'm sure they're not going to give Gurley the ball a ton. I think Gurley's real year is going to be next year. I just don't know if I want Trey Mason that early. Brandon Marshall, new situation in Miami, looks very promising. I have no problem with him. Cam Newton, I think, will have a bounce back year. Really started last season with injuries, ended last season with injuries. And I think that if you can get him, you're looking at a great situation. Ben Roethlisberger, exceptional value late in the draft there, but that's about where he's going. And I think that's right on target with what you would expect him to go. After that, I have really no real arguments with any of these guys. I think they're all very well placed in this mock. With all that being said, make sure that you target players that you feel are going to give you the opportunities to have a consistent team. taking flyers on guys who are unproven is part of fantasy football, but try to limit the risk as much as you can. Take last year, Toby Gerhart was everybody's guy. He was a guy that was going to come in and kill it. And some people took Gerhart in the top 4 picks, in top 4 rounds, and you really suffered last year with that. So that's kind of where I have Joseph Randle kind of. I have him in that Gerhart box because he's got, I would say even Toby Gerhart had more production than Joseph Randle's had. In Minnesota, he had more production. So at least there was something there that you could gravitate towards. Joseph Randle really hasn't had that much carries. It's really been something that Joseph Randle hasn't been able to have. So it's going to be interesting where you pick him. All right, off to the news and notes portion of this. Really not a ton of news, but there have been some. Sam Bradford, Eagles quarterback that we just talked about in this podcast, says that his knee is better than expected. It's not yet in game action, but he'll been pretty upbeat with everything. Demaryius Thomas said that Peyton Manning looks healthy and has been throwing the ball very fast and with a lot of force. So maybe the worries of some fantasy owners that Peyton Manning is losing zip on the ball have gone away. Personally, it's always going to be there for me. Last year, if you watched the Denver Broncos play, the Denver Broncos use a lot of bubble screens with Peyton Manning and a lot of slants, things in the middle of the field that can get wide open positions. It's not an offense that's set like, say, the Ravens with Joe Flacco, where it's a true vertical offense. Everybody knows Manning has been losing arm strength. Everybody knows that Manning can't throw the ball through the wall anymore. So I take what Demaryius says with a little bit of a grain of salt. I still believe that Peyton Manning will be very productive this year. Deshaun Jackson, he has suffered a separated shoulder. Not to laugh at his expense, but this is kind of what the fear has always been with Deshaun Jackson, that he is not a very thick NFL player, that there's always been durability concerns because of his body type. So we'll see if this affects him throughout the season. Personally, I think Deshaun Jackson has gone too high in many drafts that I've been a part of, but I guess for some people, Deshaun Jackson is a very viable fantasy option. Trent Richardson looks like he's cleared to go. At this point, you got to wonder, is Trent Richardson, how much longer is he going to be in the NFL? It's just amazing. You're talking about a guy who was the 3rd pick overall by the Browns a couple years ago, and now he's literally fighting for his NFL life. It's just been really amazing. It just really has. You just cannot believe just how bad Trent Richardson has fallen. Kevin White, it looks like he's going to start the season on the PUP list. Some people have taken Kevin White in the top 5 rounds. I think that will probably drop him to the 6th or 7th round now. I think Kevin White's a little bit too hyped, but let's be honest, it's kind of the way of the world with rookie wideouts. Many people are going to be biting on rookie wideouts. Michael Floyd from Arizona has really suffered a gruesome little injury with his hand. It actually required surgery, and you have to think now that will have some part to play in what he is. I don't see how you can avoid it. Martavis Bryant, definite source of concern is his minor procedure to clear up the infection in his elbow. You just worry about anytime guys like wideouts have problems around hands or elbows. That's always a source of concern. I don't know how severe I would rank it. I would probably rank it with some little bit of severity. I don't know how much, though. There is Brashad Perryman from Baltimore Ravens. He's had knee injury. That's something that's going to be concerned as well. There have been talks about his knee, talks about his drop issues. There's a lot of potential there with him. But let's be honest, there's also the potential that he'll fall from what everybody has hoped Perryman would be, which is basically Torrey Smith 2.0, which is what many people are hoping with his ability to go vertical and Joe Flacco's ability to throw. There's always been this theory that Perryman could be the embodiment of what they've lost, which is Torrey Smith and the ability to stretch defense. So the knee does give you a little matter of concern, but he should be fine. Out of all these, I think Michael Floyd and Deshaun Jackson are the ones that I would be most concerned with. Clearly, some people will say no. Some people will claim that there's no issue. I don't see how you can say that. I would be very concerned over him. Really would. Arian Foster, as everybody knows, has had the hamstring issues. And with all that, that's really all that we have to talk about today. Appreciate you guys taking time to share this with everybody. Also appreciate all the questions and comments I've been getting in my email. Again, if you guys like to talk about something else or have different concerns or even want to ask some questions, fire away. Look forward to talking to you guys and appreciate all your time. Develop your strategy, draft your team, and dominate your league. Alpha Fantasy Sports. Matthew Maurer signing out.